Aha, and we're live. Hello, folks. There we go. Sorry about that. Just adjusting my camera. That's a bit better. Testing, testing, two, three. We've got a little bit of green for the sound machine, and we're just on a little bit early, folks, as always. I'm very sorry we had to go with 11 o'clock tonight out of 10 o'clock. Simply put, I wasn't too well earlier. Feeling a bit better now. I'm just back in with the doggies from a walk. A bit of fresh air, I think, has done me good. Pardon me. But yeah, well, there's 11 o'clock, so hopefully we'll say hello to everybody who's out there. Thank you very much for joining me. I'm Dr. Sloan. Welcome to my science fiction station here on the Doghouse. And tonight is our Children of Dune book club, and we're on chapter 30. And I suppose it's a wee bit of a milestone for us as well, because this is going to be the halfway point of the book. Which is nice to finally get there. It's a bit of a marker for us, you know. There's Carlos Coselius saying, "Hey Doc, hi Carlos, how you doing? Thank you very much for joining us." And Bojack Harkness saying, "Hello, hi Bojack, thank you as well." Bojack, I haven't caught up with your comments, but I'm going to check each of the little things that you're finding for us. Just having a very crazy week here at the minute, and it's going to continue to be a bit crazy. We're going to have a crazy one here, all right, that's for sure. Extremely busy week. But thank you very much for those, and I will have them all checked out, and probably sometime next week, actually, because I'm heading off for a day somewhere, heading off out of the country. Pardon me. But yeah, thanks very much for joining us, guys. And as I said, I'm sorry I was a wee bit late. I wasn't feeling too well earlier, and I nearly kind of didn't run with the show. But I'm feeling a lot better now. And get some of those precious fluids in. Oh dear. So I hope you are all keeping well, folks. It was a lovely day here today. And then as of about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it's just the temperature has plummeted. And just back in with the dogs. If I didn't have a hat on, have a bit of brain freeze about me, I think. But yeah, very, very cold outside. At the same time, it's a gorgeous night if you're into your stargazing and things like that. There's an awful lot of planets have been around for the last few weeks or so, which are nice to look at. My wife's got me a wee nice wee new telescope, which I haven't got quite up and running yet, because it's not come with any instructions. But I'm hoping to make use of it real soon, you know. There's Cynthia saying, "Hi, Doc. Hi, all. Hi, Cynthia. How you doing? Thank you very much for joining us, as always." Housekeeping, that reminds me, just before we go on any further, I continued to do a little bit of reading on Teal Hunu the other week. And generally when it comes to this kind of stuff, what I've got to do is I've got to go, right, enough, Russell, because I've got to get on, if you see what I mean. But I'd found her fascinating, the whole thing, and what little I found out of it left me asking lots of questions. It was just to let you know that I picked up another source on that. And just to give you a wee quick read from the actual inscriptions. The first little bit that I'm going to read to is recorded by Sennacherib himself. The second bit is from Ashurbanipal, continuing the story, if you like. So this is from Sennacherib's Arabian campaign. And this is the actual quotation from the tablet. It's... "Tell Hunu, the queen of the Arabs, in the midst of the desert, missing bit. 1,000 camels I took from her hand. She with Hazael, the terror of my battle, overcame them." A few more dots, if you like, some missing material. "To Arumatu they fled for their lives." And then we have an inscription from Ashurbanipal that continues the history, which is, "Tell Hunu, the priestess of Dilbat, delivered Hazael into the hands of Sennacherib, my grandfather, and wrought his overthrow." I found that kind of interesting, because I wasn't quite sure what had happened in that situation, just from the from the parts of the story that I'd managed to sort of glean. I was in some parts kind of more concerned with confirming who she was. But there you go. That stuff, that's from actual inscriptions. Now, in relation to just what we were talking about Teal Hunu the other week, I was checking things like the encyclopedia. I was wondering what is Frank's source for this, and I was checking the Encyclopedia Britannica, for example. I have a reasonable, not super old, but a modern enough set of them here, and there's she has no reference in there either under her own name or under the name of Sennacherib. But what I did was I found this article from now what we've just heard is quoted from an article called "New Light on Isaiah" from Archaeology, and it's by let me see, have I written his name right? Ernest Godin, by the looks of it. Yes, it is. It's Ernest Godin. Pardon me. New Light on Isaiah from Archaeology. Now, this article appeared in the King's Business, the Bible Family Magazine, dated July 1930. You'll find it on page 360, and it's available online, folks. That is a possible source. I was actually thinking, for where did Frank get this? If you see what I mean. Yeah, so there you go. And it gave me a little bit more to the story, because I had said that Hazael, it seemed to have ended up marrying Tabua, who was Telhunu's daughter, and I kind of got the sense that it was also possibly his daughter. But there's a suggestion here in the other stories that we were looking at, that Hazael had that Telhunu had been captured while her husband Hazael had fled. In this version, and again, this is, I suppose, the Assyrian version, if you like. It has Telhunu betraying Hazael, delivered Hazael into the hands of Sennacherib, and wrought his overthrow. So there you go. It added a bit of mystery to the story, and it's a little bit more about Telhunu. And I just found all of that fascinating, but I kind of had to stop. There was one other thing which I kind of wanted to pick up on last week, was that we had a wee quick, very briefly, and I'll say hello, by the way, to everybody before we run with this. There's Objugrib saying, "Evening, Doc." Hope I pronounced that correct. There's Julian Thompson saying, "Hi, Doc." Julian, chucked you a wee response to your email there. If XFID is out there, apologies for not getting back to you yet. Your emails are lengthy, and I'll get there. There's Carlos saying, "Hey guys," to everybody. Just very quickly, the other thing that we had last week was, I was wondering, was there a subtle dig in relation to Isaac Asimov and his view on technological, what Frank Herbert calls the technological toy fixation and the Presbyterian fixation. Technological toy syndrome and the Presbyterian fixation. And it was something that it was the thing that was, about how being on foot, wasn't it? I just got I got a real sense of that, just having a wee think about it, from within the epigraph of the previous chapter, that it kind of was a dig at the kind of technological toy syndrome, if you like. Means of human transport include devices which can span the deeps of space and trans-time, other devices which can carry me swiftly over virtually impossible planetary surfaces. Seems odd to think of attempting long journeys afoot. Yet this remains the primary means of travel on Arrakis, etc., etc. The brutal treatment which this planet reserves for anything mechanical. Human flesh remains the most durable and reliable source for the Hajj. Yeah, it was just in relation to technology. I actually thought there was maybe something there, to be honest with you. And I just, for anybody who hadn't maybe picked up on it, I just got a sense of that. There's an online version of a magazine going way back. It's called Mother Earth News, I think. Not too sure where this would be. If anyone looks at the very last video of my PhD, I'll tell you what, here, sorry, that's me being stupid. I'll tell you exactly where they are. I'm going to start making better use of our, what's it? Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. Use of our books here. That we actually have a lot of information. I've got the office reset up a wee bit over here, and I've managed to alphabetize all my books finally, which should make finding things a wee bit easier. The thing I'm thinking on, I think it's called Mother Earth Magazine. Bear with me a wee second, and I'll get it exactly for you. There's two different editions. Sorry, as much as there's plenty of different editions of the magazine, there's one with a really good interview with Frank Herbert, and there's one with a really good interview with Isaac Asimov. And it's kind of both men kind of setting out their stalls, if you like, their philosophies. Let me just see if I can find it. There it is, Mother Earth News. Right, hang on. I'll just read you them. I've got the references here, but there have been online references. So, both articles by P. Stone. First one is Frank Herbert, science fiction author. And you'll find this through motherearthnews.com. Would have been the address I had for it, www.motherearthnews.com. And the article then is Homesteading and Self-Reliance. It's from 1981, I think, 0501. The Plowboy interview, Frank Herbert. And then the other one is the same author, P. Stone, Isaac Asimov, Science, Technology, and Space, again through Mother Earth News. The Plowboy interview, Isaac Asimov. If you use some of those key terms, you should find them. But it kind of did, just having looked at those two interviews before, both men will be quoted from those interviews in my PhD, actually, and it does kind of show their different attitudes to science fiction writing and technology. And it was just to point out that I got a real sense of that. So much so I just thought I'd scribble it down: devices and tech on foot, Asimov dig, etc., etc. What's that? Oh, tightly number one makes a sense. Anyway, sorry, that was that. Anyway, so it was just that little bit of extra stuff from Telhunu, that came from the King's Business, the Bible Family magazine. July 1930. The article is called New Light on Isaiah from Archaeology by Ernest Godin. And that's where we have that little discussion there. There was another thing I was looking at very quickly. It was just, what is that? Is it the Arn Thompson Uther type 303? I think that's in relation to folklore and stuff like that. It's kind of, I suppose, archetypes within fairy tales and folk stories, etc. If we want to have a look at that, that's the twins, is what that looks at. So, me just sort of dumping some stuff in my head, I think, folks. Pardon me. But anyway, it was just nice. I was actually reading a bunch of Sennacherib's tablets and inscriptions, etc. He's a geezer. But there's a lot of that stuff's available online. So if anybody is interested, do check it out. I'm going to have to draw a line on it and move on, unfortunately. Too many things to find out about here, you know. Julian saying Frank likes human power as opposed to techno power. He does indeed. And I said that's what he calls the Presbyterian fixation, is Asimov's those kind of science fiction writers who believe that new tech, evolved tech, etc., will always solve your problems. Asimov's guilty of it. I'd say Einstein's a bit guilty of it too, but probably I'm reading the Lensman at the minute, and that's just that's just obscene in terms of what you might call technological toy syndrome and upgrades. All of that really does drive the pacing of the books, which is frenetic, really fast, but it's quite a good thing. So we've got chapter 30. Here's our epigraph, folks. Now, this is an interesting one. I'm sure I've got plenty to say about it, but let's have a wee look at it. In all major socializing forces, you will find an underlying movement to gain and maintain power through the use of words. From witch doctor to priest to bureaucrat, it is all the same. A governed populace must be conditioned to accept power words as actual things to confuse the symbolized system with the tangible universe. In the maintenance of such a power structure, certain symbols are kept out of the reach of common understanding, symbols such as those dealing with economic manipulation, of those which define the local interpretation of sanity. Symbol secrecy of this form leads to the development of fragmented sublanguages, each being a signal that its users are accumulating some form of power. With this insight into a power process, our imperial security force must be ever alert to the formation of sublanguages. This is a lecture to the Arakeen War College by the Princess Irulan. Now, there's an absolute in there, first of all, in all major socializing forces. That's a bit of a problem. However, and it's only because it's such a, there's always an exception to the rule. But very much the history of our modern, or our ancient and modern civilizations, I suppose, are driven by mankind's greatest piece of technology that we've ever invented, which is the word, if you like, in particular the written word. Um, but words have power, absolutely. Uh, Underlying movement to gain and maintain power through the use of words, from witch doctor to priest to bureaucrat. So we go from sympathetic magic to religion to bureaucracy. Doesn't matter, it's all the same. People must be conditioned to accept power words as actual things, to confuse the symbolized system with the tangible universe. So you get this all the time. Um, we get it, yeah, and all sorts of things. uh, what's my all-time favorite power words? But again, power words, things that change the meaning. Uh, Replace, I suppose, or does it put the local interpretation of sanity? Probably my favorite one is collateral damage. That phrase there is a cracker. Um, it's a substitute for the mass murder of the innocent by the military. That's it. Collateral damage is an incredible term. Language like this is used in this country all the time. You've seen language like this used with the Nazis. The British use it. The Americans use it. The Russians use it, etc., etc. Words, power words. And I suppose science fiction books to look at that really, really focus on this, that drive with the language. The two biggies for me would be Orwell's 1984, a Clockwork Orange as well. Those two really, if you want to go with Darko Suvin's idea of a science fiction requiring a novum and a this kind of thing, then the language is what makes those books, and the exploration of language is what makes those books science fiction, really. Um, but yes, indeed, language, the power of language. We have, for example, separation within actual language and legal language. We've talked about that before. Words that are de jure and words that are de facto, what it actually means and what it means under the law. And they tend to be. Yeah, we use lots of euphemisms. For example, this kind of, it depends. It depends on what you're trying to achieve with the language, what what application of power you wish to have with it, if you see what I mean. Oh dear, my head is splitting tonight. um, hmm. So you'll see an awful lot of this within the Troubles, for example. In fact, there they go. I'll give you another perfect example of within my own culture is the British term the Troubles. It sounds like we're all mildly bothered, doesn't it? As opposed to it's a term that you can apply instead of ethno-religious genocide. It's much nicer, isn't it? It's the Troubles, and the people who are involved in it just a wee bit troubled. You get me? And it's still the language of bullshit today. We get an awful lot of the language of bullshit out of our governments. We've got some really interesting new language over in America at the minute. What is it? Who is it? We've got Musk has given us the woke mind virus. I think it's an interesting term. What's the latest one? That if you don't like Donald Trump, you're what is it? Trump derangement syndrome. Is that it? As if I heard this one. When I heard that the other day, it totally reminded me on Dread syndrome from Mega City One, from the Judge Dredd universe, which is quite a funny one. But indeed, words have power, and the development of sub-languages, etc., etc. I would go on with this. I've got like a bunch of different groups of languages, if you like, within my. But it's the words that I'm more interested in, if that makes sense. So I speak French and German, un peu, and I've got some computer languages, and I muck around with Latin and Greek a lot, obviously because of the classics. I don't really speak any of those. I'm more likely to speak a computer language, to be honest with you. But words in particular fascinate me. As you can figure as we go with this, as much as we're looking at Frank's writing, we're picking apart his language and looking at. I mean, he's got a fascinating choice of words within these books, and they come from all over the world, you know. So with words, we can do all sorts of things, you know. And within the suggestion here, we're building up power structures by use of certain words that we keep out of reach, that they can replace certain symbols, this kind of thing, out of the public, and we create a private sub-language. I was going to add to that almost every, how would we put it, almost every, at the very least, academic discipline, every trade, if you like, every skill set, a lot of job groups, almost every one of them has its own form of language, if you see what I mean. The particular jargon, and that's often used within any given situation to be a power and control thing. For example, you know, if you take your car to the mechanic, if you don't know much about cars, they're going to give you a whole, you know, bunch of spiel about this part, that part, your faulty carburetor, and all all this stuff, you know. It's the same with computer repair. People are baffled. They can use the language. You don't understand it. You have to just rely on what they're saying. And it's a power control thing, you know. And it exists in all sorts of things, particularly, again, a full separation of language within the law, within religion, and you'll find it within government, whose language is actually made up of a combination of law and religion. You know, and sub-languages. I'll tell you what's really interesting to look at. I hadn't even thought about this, is the Rosetta Stone. Now it's got 3 different languages on it, but let me see if I can. I'm going to look this up here. I've got a terrifically awful new mouse that keeps doing things on its own. It's like the Stormbringer of mouses or meat. Dear, oh dear. What was I about to look? Sorry, I've lost my track of thought there because of that rubbish mouse. Some languages. Oh, for goodness sake. So sorry, folks. That's completely gone. If anybody can remind me what I was just talking about, maybe I'll look it up. Some languages, religion. Oh, sorry. I do apologize. The thought hasn't slipped my mind there when I was busy complaining about my mouse. Shows you shouldn't moan too much, doesn't it? David Palumbo talks about semantics in Dune. Yes, he's got a great book on Dune. I'm starting. Yeah, languages. We're having a bit of issues with some stuff in it, Julian, aren't we, at the minute? Carlos is saying, I think that's funny that some concepts just don't translate from one language to another. Yeah. Bojack, thank you. Rosetta Stone, thank you very much. It wasn't something in my notes, but it was just what we're talking about, just so we can get through the epigraph. And 3 different languages on the Rosetta Stone. I can't. One's Egyptian, one's Greek. What's the other one? Demotic, hieroglyphic, and Greek. There we go. Right, just very quickly, if I look this up, I don't know if any of you are familiar with this. This was an incredibly useful thing for translation in the ancient world. The top and middle texts are in ancient Egyptian. So, sorry, I'll very quickly read this. It's a stele of granodiorite inscribed with 3 versions of a decree issued in 196 BC during the Ptolemaic dynasty of Egypt on behalf of King Ptolemy V Epiphanes. The top and middle texts are in ancient Egyptian using hieroglyphic and demotic scripts, respectively, while the bottom is ancient Greek. The decree has only minor differences across the 3 versions, making the Rosetta Stone key to deciphering Egyptian scripts. There we go. Let me just quickly see the whole point of it is that each language is used for a different reason. If I can remember correctly. So Greek is the language of the scholars and the Ptolemies. And I think there's a law that basically everything has to have a Greek. Now, what was the demotic used for? I think it was one of these was used for taxation, if I can remember rightly. Sorry, bear with me a wee second. His original stale description round was requested. Idiomatic use. Not quite finding what I'm looking for, but if you want to look into it, I'm pretty sure one of those is a language of royalty, for example. One of them is a language that's common, and the other one is the language that taxation is written in, something like that. If I'm not mistaken, but don't take my word for it, folks. I've been operating on very little sleep the last few weeks, so I'm a wee bit fuzzy with something. So do check them as always. But it's that kind of thing there. That's law, kind of religion, kingship, all combined in one taxation. But yeah, sub languages, forms of power process. Been up to see a solicitor today. The language of law, just absurd sometimes, But words are powerful things. So the warning is that whenever you see someone forming a sub language, if you like, symbol secrecy as well. And the other thing, by the way, I think just to point out, governed populace may be conditioned to accept power words as actual things, to confuse the symbolized system with the tangible universe. I think we've seen a lot of that with pronouns, and particularly the use of Greek and Roman prefixes and suffixes within the kind of pronoun debate, if you see what I mean. It's the kind of the Greek and Latin of it. Give it mystery, give it magic, give it power. If you see what I mean, it's quite funny. Symbol secrecy. At the same time, you can have symbols subverted here. Accept power words as actual things to confuse a symbolized system with a tangible universe. The same thing can be done with symbols as well. And I think we talked about Nazi Germany's appropriation of the swastika symbols, and the whole idea of the Aryan mythology that went along with it. But the appropriation of those symbols, what they represent to a lot of people today, and what they actually should represent, and still do to several religions and things. So it's a fascinating thing. I could go on for days about this. I'd have to really sort of start scribbling notes down. But how you control, words, really important. And within, I suppose, the classical word, we've got rhetoric, the art of persuasion, the art of manipulation, the choice of the correct word, the right tone, all of this kind of stuff that you'll find within voice and stuff. It's very important. And we have throughout all of this chapter, then, I suppose, people saying things where meaning is not apparent, where meaning is being hidden, where they're being deliberately deceptive, and where we even have, I suppose, the realization of being deceived. Yeah, it's an interesting one. Shall we get cracking, folks? Again, if anybody's got any wee questions or comments, let me know. I've got a wee touch of the cold today, so I hope I'm not going to be too sniffy. I do apologize, but here we go. I've got a real problem in this chapter straight off, folks. We'll begin. I'll just read the paragraph first of all. It is perhaps unnecessary to tell you, Farad'n said, but to avoid any errors, I'll announce that a mute has been stationed with orders to kill you both should I show signs of succumbing to witchcraft. Right. Can anybody figure out what my major problem is with this paragraph? And I've got a question about it, but it smacked me in the face. This has got to be a mistake. I've gone through the whole chapter. Obviously, at this point, it's a mistake that's continually repeated. Is it a mistake? Is it Frank Herbert's mistake? Or is it Farad'n's mistake? Can anyone guess what word is badly out of place in this paragraph? It's the word mute. Okay, we have a mute here to protect Farad'n, to kill the pair of them if he shows the slightest signs of succumbing to witchcraft. In other words, if he starts acting like he's under the influence of voice, this mute is a defense against that. Witchery. Here we go. Oh, here, so does mine. This is my problem at the minute, Bojack, as you are figuring out. I'm ridiculously tired. I'm not sleeping well, and I am making stupid mistakes myself. Sometimes I'm fixing in my own head. Witchery, mine says that as well. I do apologize. I was probably that outraged about the word mute. Um, but does everybody have the word mute there, that this is a mute person? And my problem with this is a simple one, that is no defense against voice. I was wondering, is that a mistake? No, yeah, Bojack says yes, mute. And thank you for the witchery thing. It is indeed witchery, succumbing to witchery. Apologies there, folks. Yeah, I'm glad I've got you guys to keep a wee eye on me at this stage. Starting to get a wee bit silly with the loss of sleep. I actually fell asleep while doing some of these notes, kind of nodded off, and I had started to make mistakes badly. I've even had to score out a bunch of stuff, so I did stop myself, and hopefully I haven't made too many folks. A mute is a person that can't talk. We've had a situation before where someone with voice we've had a specialist soldier placed there to keep an eye on them, and that person has been deaf. And that makes perfect sense because they can't hear the voice. This person is a mute, they can't talk. So fair enough, they can't repeat what's said here. They can certainly write it down, but they can hear fine. So the voice, they would be. It makes no sense to me whatsoever, unless. So this is what I've written. Here's my notes. Pardon me. A mute is no defense against the voice. So why? Question mark. And then I've written next to this: is it Frank's mistake or Farad'n's? And then simply put, a mute can't talk. So I don't get it at all. But we'll run with it. So it makes sense in one sense that if Farad'n. And so we begin this chapter with this possibly glaring mistake. Possibly not. It might be like the beginning of, the code in the beginning of The Demolished Man. You read the book and it's clearly not what it says it is, and you think it's a misprint, and on you go. And it turned out it said what it was meant to the whole time. It's just that the character ignored it and saw what he wanted to see. Does that make sense? But my explanation for it is, if it's not a mistake by Frank, is that it is a mistake by Farad'n, and this chapter ends with a sort of a bit of a natter on from him on, I suppose, the academic nature of learning from books and not actually having real experience. Farad'n is bookish. He's moved into the intrigue game. It might be that not all of his information is good, and it's possible that he's been told, or that his source for this information has told him, that a mute is a defense against the voice, someone like Lady Jessica. It is, of course, not. And so that it also could be, for goodness sake, it also could be an attempt by Farad'n to display obvious stupidity and ignorance in a form of deception, if you see what I mean. Because I don't know, this is a good chapter to get a bit of a grip on Farad'n. How naive is he? How politically astute is he? How well educated is he? How much of a player is he, if you see what I mean, in the political game? And I think by the time we get through this chapter, I've still got questions. But is it a display of obvious stupidity to put on? Remember, he set this room up. Everything about this meeting and the previous meetings, he's chosen the setting, how to go about it, etc. He's planning this. Perhaps unnecessary to tell you, but to avoid any errors, I'll announce that a mute had been stationed with orders to kill you both should I show signs of succumbing to witchery. If I was there, I'd be in my head going, oh no, yeah, okay, we'll behave. We've got this guy. This guy's stupid. So is it a deliberate thing to underestimate him? Does that make sense? It's got me asking questions, because I don't think I genuinely, as much as the mistakes that we're finding in these books and there's loads in this chapter again. I don't think a lot of those are Frank's fault at all. So this is a particular word that's right throughout the chapter. It is a mute, obviously, but I'm wondering why. And it could be I make mistakes. You know what I mean? Everybody makes them. I'm wondering, is it a mistake or is it a deliberate thing to appear badly informed, stupid, naive, less than what he seems to be, so that he'll be underestimated, if you see what I mean. I don't do that sort of thing myself a lot, but when people make assumptions about me, I tend to let them go with it. I don't correct them unless, that kind of thing. It's for the same reason, if you like. I'm just curious what you think. Cynthia saying Farad'n may think that signs of succumbing to witchery could be manifest in words that he said, so the guard would need to hear it. Doesn't solve the mute mystery, though. Carlos is saying, would voice work on someone who doesn't speak the language? That's a very good point. Carlos, I'd imagine not. Because there's command in there, isn't it? But at the same time, Carlos, there's a kind of a nonsense word, isn't there? Back in Dune, that's used on it's the word that would shut down Fade Routha, and it's chosen because it's like a nonsense word that doesn't sound like any other word. Does that make sense? It can't be said accidentally. Like all things within the Dune universe, there's a very simple defense against the Bene Gesserit. It's called headphones or earplugs. Anyone who's been, a musician on stage, with big equipment, they're necessary, but they do their job. So yeah, as I agree, this we would want someone to keep signs of, keep an eye out for all of this kind of thing. Yeah, a mute doesn't make sense. Because I could command, if you were Jessica and you wanted to command the mute to attack Farad'n, command Farad'n to attack the mute, command the pair of them to attack each other, and then release, this kind of thing, whatever. It's just I have to tell you, and it's okay. It's as far as I'm concerned, it's just okay, and I'm not impressed in any way if it's so. I don't know. We'll have to just go with it, folks. That's part of. I actually, the way that this chapter works, I'd actually be more inclined to actually believe that this is a deliberate thing, rather than Frank's mistake by Farad'n to appear stupid, or else that his information on the Bene Gesserit is actually wrong, and he's been fed this information deliberately, possibly by the Bene Gesserit. It starts to get in your head, especially if you see where we're going with this in the chapter. So we'll move on, folks. Anyway, I just thought it was something right off the bat that really puzzled me. He did not expect to see any effect from these words. Okay, both the Lady Jessica and Idaho gratified expectations. Farad'n had chosen with care the setting for this first examination of the pair, Sharam's old state audience chamber. What it lacked in grandeur, it made up for with exotic appointments. Outside, it was a winter afternoon, but the windowless chamber's lighting simulated a timeless summer day, bathed in golden light from artfully scattered glow globes of the purest Ixian crystal. And we have X again mentioned there, Ixian devices. It's winter outside, but summer inside, and I wonder why. Again, I thought we kind of got a sense that some things have been done to Seleucus Secundus to make it slightly more habitable, but it's possibly just the buildings. The news from Arrakis filled Farad'n with quiet elation, so it's a good thing for him as far as he's concerned. Leto, the male twin, was dead, killed by an assassin tiger. Ganima, the surviving sister, was in the custody of her aunt and repeatedly a hostage. And that was our connection to T.L. Huna the previous week. Hostages. The full report did much to explain the presence of Idaho and the Lady Jessica. Sanctuary was what they wanted. Sanctuary has always been quite an interesting concept. Okay, so Corrino's spies reported an uneasy truce on Arrakis. Alia had agreed to submit herself to a test called the Trial of Possession, the purpose of which had not been fully explained. However, no date had been set for this trial, and two Corrino spies believed it might never take place. This much was certain, though. There had been fighting between desert Fremen and the imperial military Fremen, an abortive civil war, which had brought government to a temporary standstill. Stilgar's holdings were now neutral ground, designated after an exchange of hostages. Ganima evidently had been considered one of those hostages, although the working of this remained unclear. So, I've scribbled down here again, his knowledge is academic. He has no practical or deep knowledge of Fremen culture. So he doesn't know what the trial of possession is. Does this, and I've written, does this apply to the Bene Gesserit? And again, I've written also, why is there a mute in the room? Sorry, that's also there again. So the working of this remained unclear, and I've written down it's unclear to Farad'n, but it's also unclear to us. And again, I've written next that the Ganima convinced Stilgar. So has Stilgar handed Ganima over to Alia, having had the plan explained, etc., knowing that they're aware of what's going on, and has he acquiesced to Ganima's demands, requests, etc., to the twins' plan, basically? Yeah, this is one to get our teeth into, folks. I think plans within plans within plans, wheels within wheels, treachery within treachery, tricks within tricks. This it's all here in this chapter. Now, I think I've got a missing word coming up here, folks. Let me see. Where are we? Number 5. So, and just by the way, with the mute in the room, etc., is that there are levels of ignorance to Farad'n. This is kind of one where we're getting kind of our narrator's inner knowledge, inner insight to the character, if you like. But the first one is a kind of pouting speech from him. And as it could very well be deliberate, but I would still expect there to be gaps in his knowledge. Now, the next paragraph I have here is Jessica and Idaho have been brought to the audience, securely bound in suspensor chairs. Now, that didn't quite make sense to me. I think it's to the audience chamber. I think I'm missing the word chamber because we are in Shaddam's old state audience chamber. It could be audience. I don't know if anyone could check that one for me. Jessica and Idaho have been brought to the audience, securely bound in suspensor chairs. I think there should be chamber in there as well. Yeah, here we go. A bit of Dune tech. The suspensor chair with the Shiga wire. I quite like this touch. Both were held down by deadly thin strands of Shiga wire, which would cut flesh at the slightest struggle. 2 Sardaukar troopers had brought them, checked the bindings, and had gone away silently. Now, the warning had indeed been unnecessary. Jessica had seen the armed mute standing against a wall at her right, an old but efficient projectile weapon in his hand. She allowed her gaze to roam over the room's exotic inlays. The broad leaves of the rare iron bush had been set with eye pearls and interlaced to form the center of the domed ceiling. The floor beneath her was alternative blocks of diamond wood and kabuzu shell, arranged with rectangular borders of passaque bones. There had been set on end, laser cut. These had been set on end, laser cut and polished. Selected hard materials decorated the walls in stress woven patterns which outlined the 4 positions of the lion symbol, claimed by descendants of the late Shaddam IV, in other words, them. The lions were executed in wild gold. Interestingly enough, that presents us with, I drew this, so it gives us, there you go, gives us a Jungian mandala, doesn't it? That's the scene, the dome ceiling. We've got a bunch of words here, just to explain some of them. What do we get first there? The broadleaves, iron bush. There's also a suggestion of kind of natural materials not being made out of the things that possibly you would think. If you like iron bush, diamond wood, that kind of thing, passacae bones. So in terms of words that we have here, let's see. Passacae I've got here is from the name pasque, which is Old French from paquet, which is a bundle of kindling, a cellar of firewood. Passacae bones. I'd also got that it's a different. It's a form of Pascal. Now Pascal, where do we go? Pascal is, I think, someone. I thought I wrote this down, but it looks like I didn't. I think Pascal is a name that refers to somebody who's born on Easter or Pentecost. One of the two. Ah, there you go. I did write it down. One born on Easter. Easter Day. There we are. Definition. So that's just in terms of where that word comes from. Kabuzu. Oh, this was fun tracking this down. Ended up finding the Kabuzu Timber Company. Anyway, Kabuzu is either a forest or a stream at what would be called Lake Nakashasha, which I could not find. It's an old name for it. I found a reference to it anyway. Kabuzu in Sindhi, by the way, means constipation, disease, or cough. But the Kabuzu is also a forest or a stream in this location, and it's to do with the Mayan Mamba people, where are we? Also known as the Kabuzu. So it's also a name of a people. Sorry, I read the wrong thing. It's from the Mayan Mamba. It's from the history of the Nicoya people. I do apologize. And all of the tribes of the Nicoya are called the children of Maini, I think is how I was pronouncing it, Maini. And Maini Lebupi was a woman who led the Nicoya away from Lubaland in Zaire and brought them to Zambia. There you go. That's from the history of the Nicoya people. I think volume 3. I think something I found it online. But there you go. A couple of different meanings. So it's a name. I managed to find the place on, what is it you call it, Google Earth. So it's basically, it says it's a stream today. But it's a place. But there you go. It has it's got a relationship to the Nicoya people, who are, I suppose, in modern day Zambia, I think. But okay, we did that one, didn't we? The 4 positions of the lion. If you look in heraldry, the Sloan family's got a lion, I think. And it's coat of arms. That's not my personal family's coat of arms. I can't remember what it is. I think it's absent. Actually, it's the outline of an lion. Lions can be in heraldry in a range of positions, and I knew a few of these, but a couple of them I didn't know. So rampant, passant, statant, salient, sedgeot, sedgeot erect, couchant, and dormant. But I'm assuming that that's to do with 4 positions of heraldry, if you like. The lion's symbol claimed by the descendants of late Shaddam IV. Lions executed in wild gold. Lions. Symbol of kingship, isn't it, generally? Also of empire, but generally of kingship. The eagle tends to be more associated with imperialism. But who would be referred to? Yeah, Alexander would be the lion of Macedon, wouldn't he? Oh, let me just check that. My text has brought to the audience securely bound. Oh, it's maybe not the mistake I thought it was. Where are we? So you've got brought to the audience securely bound. That's what I've got. Yours reads only audiences. I must be wrong. I suppose it's an audience in an audience chamber. Where are we talking about? Have been brought to the audience securely bound in suspension chairs. Jessica and Idaho have been brought to the audience. Yeah, it does work. I actually think, why bother to drop the fact that it's in an audience chamber? I've a funny. I've put chamber sick maybe there next to it, but I actually think there is a word, should have the word chamber in it, but we'll go with that. That's okay. It's what's in the books is what's in the books. Thank you very much for checking, guys. I do appreciate it. Right. So yeah, we're getting a bit of a sense of the wealth of the place, a display of wealth, if you like. Display of power. Farad'n had chosen to receive the captives while standing. He wore uniform shorts and a light golden jacket of elf silk, open at the throat. His only decoration was the princely starburst of his royal family worn at the left breast. He was attended by the Bashar Tychonic, wearing Sardaukar dressed hands and heavy boots, and an ornate lasgun carried in a front holster at the belt buckle. Tychonic, whose heavy visage was known to Jessica from Bene Gesserit reports, stood 3 paces to the left and slightly behind Farad'n. A single throne of dark wood sat on the floor near the wall directly behind the two. Now, Farad'n said, addressing Jessica, do you have anything to say? I would inquire why we are bound thus, Jessica said, indicating the Shigawar. We have only now received reports from Arrakis to explain your presence here, Farad'n said. Perhaps I'll have you released presently. He smiled. If you... and he broke off as his mother entered by the state doors behind the captives. So here comes Wensisia. Wensisia hurried past Jessica and Idaho, without a glance, presented a small message cube to Farad'n, actuated it. He studied the glowing face, glancing occasionally at Jessica's back to the cube. The glowing face went dark, and he returned the cube to his mother, indicated that she should show it to Tychonic. While she was doing this, he scowled at Jessica. I could have read that a wee bit better, couldn't I? The glowing face went dark, and he returned the cube to his mother, indicated that she should show it to Tychonic. While she was doing this, he scowled at Jessica. Something's made him not happy. Presently, Wensisia stationed herself at Farad'n's right hand, the darkened cube in her hand partly concealed in a fold in her white gown. So it's very obvious we've got a message is what she's given away, and concealing the cube doesn't really do much, does it? Jessica glanced at her right at Idaho, but he refused to meet her gaze. The Bene Gesserit are displeased with me, Farad'n said. They believe I was responsible for the death of your grandson. Jessica held her face emotionless, thinking, so Ganima's story is to be trusted, unless... She didn't like the suspected unknowns. Idaho closed his eyes, opened them to glance at Jessica. She continued to stare at Farad'n. Idaho had told her about his Ragia vision, but she seemed unworried. He didn't know how to catalogue her lack of emotion. She obviously knew something, though, that she wasn't revealing. So I suppose what we have with Jessica is that an understanding of Leto and Ganima's plot, her conversation with Ganima, etc. She has a sense of what's going on. And in other words, she's pretty certain, though she doesn't want to accept the alternative, that Leto is not dead. And so from this point, really, we've got to run with it. This is a game that she's playing. And she's not giving it away, but there's something there that suggested to Idaho that something's not quite right. She knows something that she's not revealing, and he is correct here. Ragia Vision. I've got C Notes, Volume 2, C Chapter 21, Note 80. Right, bear with me. Oh, that's this book. Right, hang on. Jumping back a while. We got Ragia, I think, mentioned 3 times in the book. Chapter 21. Bear with me a wee second, folks. The last time we heard the word. 21. Chapter 21, there we go. And it's note number 80. Oh, I don't know all the way. Where are we? So going back, this was the chapter with the house ferrets. Idaho, as Alia said, guards, Idaho put a hand over his Tyraxu eyes, trying to prevent the demanding involvement which swept over him. It was Raja, the movement of infinity as expressed by life, the latent cup of total immersion in mentat awareness, which lay in in wait for every mentat. It threw his awareness onto the universe like a net, falling, defining the shapes within it. That's our net, isn't it? He saw the twins crouching in darkness with giant claws rake the air about them. We had Julian giving us a wee bit of a heads up. I've got written here next to that, back at the time, that this was Indra's net, is what we're talking about. But it's casting his awareness over using it as a framework, if you like, for the universe itself. And that's going to be really important when we get to way down the road to Daniel and Marty, I think. I had got Raja, no etymology, way back, Raja, the referrer. I had also that Raja was a Muslim girl's name with the meanings hopeful, hoping, hope, expectation, wish, content, satisfied. There we go. That's what we got on at that time. So it was just a wee quick reference. This was the Raja vision Idaho had told her about. Well, she didn't seem bothered about it. She knows something. This is the situation, Farad'n said, and he proceeded to explain everything he learned about events on Arrakis, leaving out nothing. He concluded, your granddaughter survives, but she's reportedly in the custody of the lady Alia. This should gratify you. Did you kill my grandson? Jessica asked. So direct, straight to the point question. And Farad'n answered truthfully, I did not. I recently learned of a plot, but it was not of my making. Now, it's interesting as much as we talk about, I suppose, the fallibilities of different things. There are very obvious ways to be the truth sayer in this universe, aren't there? And I think that also being aware of that would be useful. We're coming up to it, folks. I'll make a wee announcement. Jessica looked at Wen's Sissia, saw the gloating expression on that heart-shaped face, and thought, her doing. Sorry, do that again. Her doing. The lioness schemes for her cub. This was a game the lioness might live to regret. I had a wee part there, just that not all of that was in italics, and I thought it should be. Returning her attention to Farad'n, Jessica said, but the sisterhood believes you killed him. And Farad'n turned to his mother. Show her the message. As when Sissia hesitated, he spoke with an edge of anger, which Jessica noted for future use. I said, show it to her. Ooh. Anger. Rhetoric and anyone ever investigates, have I got a copy handy? It's up there somewhere. I'll not go looking. If you ever investigate rhetoric, Aristotle's rhetoric, etc., the art of rhetoric, the first thing you learn pretty much is how to be calm, and the second thing you learn after that is anger. How to make someone angry. The idea is that whenever you're arguing or debating with someone, if you stay calm while your opponent gets angry, they look unhinged. People, it's that kind of idea. So it's a good idea to make your opponent angry, if you like. So there's a shift in power. He's quite shirty with his mother here, and I suppose how he behaves to his mother may be of note. In this chapter, just to point out, folks, just the game the lioness might live to regret. That just as we crossed over there, that's the halfway point of the book. So we're halfway through. Yay! And all the way to the very last page. That's my page 213. My book's got 426 with the chapter with the story still on that page. So that's the halfway point physically. It's nice to get there. So here we have, and I've written it's the Bene Gesserit message, but it's contained. I've written next to that it's contained in the message from the Landsrat. So what we're actually going to be reading The sisterhood believes show her the message. As much as it's presented that way, this is a message from the Landsrat that has a hidden message inside it, a message within a message. Face pale when Sissia presented the message, the message face of the cube to Jessica activated it. Words flowed across the face, responding to Jessica's eye movements. And so this is the Landsrat message. Bene Gesserit Council on Wallach 9 files formal protest against House Corrino in assassination of Leto Atreides II. Arguments and showing of evidence are assigned to Landsrat Internal Security Commission. Neutral ground will be chosen and names of judges will be submitted for approval by all parties. Your immediate response required. Sabbat Rikush for the Landsrat. Couple of things about that, I suppose. First of all, Canley is supposed to be this universe's way of dealing with inter-house rivalries, etc., without causing all-out war. It has rules, but it's all about assassination, I think. So the fact that one house has assassinated someone from another house shouldn't be that hard to believe or be that big a problem. It's just possible that they might be going with the forms of Canley, if you like. Formal protest against House Corrino in assassination of Leto Atreides II. The other thing that I wondered about, folks, is why is Leto Atreides the second here? Someone once asked me, why is he not Leto the third? And my response was, so Paul and Chani's first child is called Leto, and he is killed in Dune. He is technically Leto the second. This one is technically the third person of that name in the same family in a row. So the question, I suppose it's now my answer at the time was I figured, and it seems that I might be wrong here, that the real Leto Atreides II wasn't called that because he never ruled, whereas Leto the first ruled, and this Leto we're talking about, who's technically the third Leto, ruled. So that it was to do with rule. But here we have, he's not a ruler yet, is he? I'm just wondering why not Leto Atreides III, if you see what I mean. And in that sense, if there isn't, the other thing I wanted to know is there no therefore, why is there no kind of literary, or maybe there is actually, I would have to look into it, literary or historical acknowledgement of the real Leto the second, who died as a baby. So it was just a couple of points, me being pernickety. But and of course he is Leto the second. We all call him that, but that's the thing. Technically, he's not. Technically, he's Leto the third. And if we understand that his older baby brother died as an infant but had the same name, so I don't know. Maybe it's just it's confusing sometimes, I think. Arguments and showing of evidence assigned to Landsrat Internal Security Commission. Neutral ground for chosen, names of judges submitted for approval by all parties, etc. So we're getting to see a wee bit of the legalese of the Landsrat there, who up until all the way through June seemed to be simply a very disparate group of houses that don't seem to have any real power at all. It's always suggested that they do. This is by Sabbat Rikush for the Landsrat. Sabbat is an Arabic male name. It means firmly, I like this by the way, firmly in place, stable, unshakable, stationary, fixed, permanent, as in you can't shift me. That's a great set of meanings for a name. Unshakable, firmly in place. You're not, I think that's a great. Rikush then is, my understanding is Hebrew. Has a few different meanings: property, possessions, goods, wealth, and comes from, as far as I know, the Hebrew verb rakash. So rikush from rakash, I think, is to gather or to collect. So there we go. So an unshakable person who's here to collect or here to gather is this guy's name. I think that's great, isn't it? There, I certainly put it together. When Sissia returned to her son's side, "How do you intend to respond?" Jessica asked. When Sissia said, "Since my son has not yet been formally invested as head of House Corrino, I will." Where are you going? So this last was addressed to Farad'n, who, as she spoke, turned and headed for a side door near the watchful mute. Uh, as I was reading this, I didn't trust that it was the word mute was correct, so I've kind of scribbled a couple of things next to it every time. Now, what I've written here. Sorry, Farad'n paused, half turned. "I'm going back to my books and the other pursuits, which hold much more interest for me." "How dare you?" when Sissia demanded. A dark flush spread from her neck up across her cheeks. "I'll dare quite a few things in my name," Farad'n said. "You have made decisions in my name, decisions which I find extremely distasteful. Either I will make the decisions in my own name from this point on, or you can find yourself another heir for House Corrino." Just to back up a wee bit, since my son, I actually thought he was. I think when we talked about this last, I thought that they would gone ahead and invested him with the power. They haven't, and so he's not in charge of House Corrino at this point. And when Sissia has moved into act here, she's gloating, she's being vain, and she's being stupid. And this is a critical mistake here, I think, by her. And the fact that it's almost like they're airing their dirty laundry in front of the Atreides, it's embarrassing for her because she's here to gloat. It's making her look small in front of Jessica. There is also the whole thing going on here with mimesis, which is interesting to think about. I've written it in gigantic words at the end of it, but there's an attempt to imitate House Atreides by House Corrino here, and as much as Farad'n is possibly wishing to imitate Paul Atreides in all things, when Sissia has very much, I think, trying to be put on the airs and graces to appear like the Lady Jessica. So to have one up on her here would have been a great little, Karen type victory, I suppose. But it's gone badly for her here. So basically, put up or shut up. Either make me the head of the house now, or I'm done. I'm walking. Jessica passed her gaze swiftly across the participants in this confrontation, seeing the real anger in Farad'n. And again, anger was a quality of Paul Atreides in Dune. Again, and it's the second time we've had it mentioned here. Anger, real anger, not fake. It's not on display for any particular reason. He's not happy. The Bashir aide stood swiftly at attention, trying to make it appear that he had heard nothing. When Sissia hesitated on the brink of screaming rage. Bear with me a second. Have I written that down? Right. Where are we? Yeah, that's one of my wee mistakes there. Just bear with me a wee second. Where did she go? On the brink. There we go. Oh, screaming rage. I like that. Farad'n appeared perfectly willing to accept any outcome from this throw of the dice. Jessica rather admired his poise, saying many things in his confrontation which could be of value to her. I've written next to that regardless of what you think, what goes on in the chapter here, I just put that Jessica's a very optimistic character. As much as she's in a bad place here, she's planning for the future here. If you see what I mean, what can I learn? What can I gather here that I can use in the future? It seemed that the decision to send assassin tigers against her grandchildren had been without Farad'n's knowledge. There could be little doubt of his truthfulness in saying he'd learned of the plot after its inception. There was no mistaking the real anger in his eyes as he stood there. That's the third time we've heard it mentioned. Little triumvirate of anger. Oh, sorry. as he stood there ready to accept any decision. So he's fine with how this goes. He's cast his dice. When Sissy says no, she says no, and I'm walking, I'm done. I'll go back to my books and I'll be happy. He's forced the issue here, basically, and he's done it in a manner that shames when Sissy a bit. But she has to act here. When Sissy took a deep, trembling breath, and then, very well, the formal investiture will take place tomorrow. You may act in advance of it now. She looked at Tyachnic, who refused to meet her gaze. Her power is now gone. Pardon me. Way back, she had asked Tyachnic. I think the reason why he can't look her in the eye is that she told him that there would be a day would come, if you see what I mean. And basically, when Farad'n's going to take his power, and that he was to let her know when that day came. I think so she could be prepared for it, and I think that did not happen. I get Jessica's thoughts here. There'll be a screaming fight once mother and son get out of here, Jessica thought. But I do believe he has won. She allowed her thoughts to return then to the message from the Landsrat. The sisterhood had judged their messengers with a finesse which did credit to Bene Gesserit planning. Hidden in the formal notice of protest was a message for Jessica's eyes. The fact of the message said, the sisterhood spies knew Jessica's situation, and they gauged Farad'n with superb nicety to guess he'd show it to his captive. A little bit of regard. How it's put there is that they gauged it all so nicely. Word I would go with is prediction. They predicted it. Didn't they? Have a mixed speech says he's called Leto II because he wasn't a descendant of the first Leto II. Good point. Have a mixed speech. Thank you. Well done, sir. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. That's it. I was wondering. Leto the First to Leto. Leto the First to Leto. Hang on. Leto the First to Paul. Then Paul to Leto. Paul is the father of Leto II. So it's not a Paul. So it's not Leto II doesn't follow Leto the First, if that makes sense. Not a descendant of the first Leto II. And then so Leto 2 and Leto 3 are brothers, aren't they? And they have the same mother as well. So they're all descendants of Leto number 1. If you see what I mean. Leto II would be his brother. And the one that we call Leto II should be Leto III. I don't know. I thought you were on it there, but I'm not 100% sure. He wasn't Leto. He was called Leto II because he wasn't a descendant of the first Leto II. No, he's not. No. Interesting. Oh. No, technically Leto III would be the third person to rule of that name. We get a whole bunch of popes with the same name, if you like. None of them are hardly any of them are having a familial ascendancy going on. Inheritance. Cynthia just in between that comment says having a speech. Saying it was interesting that the mute guards don't see Farad'n's outburst as a sign of witchery. Laughing at it. Yeah, there's a bit of what's going on in here. Again, he's probably been prepped, I think. The mute guard makes no sense to me whatsoever. There's Earl Parker saying, was he called Leto II before he took rule as emperor? Well, originally I'd thought it was because he's Leto II because he ruled, but he isn't on the throne here yet. And maybe it's just because he's in line for it. Would that make sense? That would make the most sense, But it's almost as confusing as we having Dune parts 1 and 2 for the 3 parts of Dune, and then we're going to have part 2 of Dune Messiah being called Dune 3. It's oh god. It's reminding me of that, folks. Yeah, I'm going to look into that, actually. Leto the Third would be the son of Leto. But Leto the Third is technically Leto the Second. He's the son of Paul. Leto the Second's the son of Paul as well. And Paul's the son of Leto the First. Oh. I wonder, did I include him actually way back? I did a wee family chart actually a wee while back. I was trying to explain the Farad'n's genes in relation to Asimir Fenring, you know. Anyway, I think it requires some investigating, but it is confusing to me, you know. No, message, where are we? Message within a message. Anger with Farad'n. Sorry, I jumped back a wee bit there in my notes. Okay, Jessica says, I'd like an answer to my question. Jessica asked, and addressing herself to Farad'n as he returned to face her. Yeah. I made a wee note just that the Bene Gesserit, we're sort of striking, acting, and communicating through the Landsrad there, just at the bottom of my page with your message. So here we go. Farad'n says this: I shall tell the Landsrad that I had nothing to do with the assassination, Farad'n said. I will add that I share the sisterhood's distaste for the manner of it, although I cannot be completely displeased at the outcome. My apologies for any grief that may have caused you. Fortune passes everywhere. Jessica's thoughts here are, fortune passes everywhere, Jessica thought. That had been a favourite saying of her duke, and there had been something of Farad'n's manner which said he knew this. Again, mimesis. He's mimicking her husband. She forced herself to ignore the possibility that they'd really killed Leto. Forcing herself to ignore it, he's probably not dead. She had to assume that Ganima's fears for Leto had motivated a complete revelation of the twins' plan. The smugglers would put Gurney in position to meet Leto then. Sorry, I'll read that again. The smugglers would put Gurney in position to meet Leto then, and the sisterhood's devices would be carried out. Leto had to be tested. He had to be. Without the testing, he was doomed as Alia was doomed. And Ganima, well, that can be faced later. There was no way to send the preborn before a Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohim. And I've written, no, because she's dead. And then actually, yes, there is a way to put a preborn in front of Gaius Helen Mohim. She's in Jessica's other memory, isn't she? As a Reverend Mother, she has that ability. So there was a way to send the preborn before a Reverend Mother, I think, but the real one's dead. So the full machinations of the sisterhood really is that they're wanting to test Ganima and Leto. I'm assuming with the Gom Jabbar in the same way that they tested Paul, and also, I'd imagine, the test of possession to see if they're abominations. At the same time, I think they'd probably be trying to, how would we put it, salvage something of the breeding program of these two here. I think we'll get to that. The one thing I've written is that there was no way to send the preborn before Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohim. I've written next that, is there no one else? And why the hell not? Because especially the way that the Bene Gesserit pass on memories is to pass on abilities and knowledge and all of this kind of stuff. As much as it seems to be eminently important to the Bene Gesserit. Huge figure, probably their top woman, to be honest. There has to be a replacement for her because there's that continuity of knowledge and memory and lives, if you like, which it makes sense. They could bring anybody there. There should be someone, I suppose, not anybody, but there should be someone with at least the abilities, knowledge, and experience of the Reverend Mother Gaius Helen Mohim to take over after her, and she's been dead for some time as well. There are elements of this chapter that are doing a lot of kind of the mimicking, I suppose there's mimesis of events that we've seen before in Dune. Earl Parker Jessica's optimism could be due to her knowing better than anyone else Alia's capabilities at such young ages, which would be magnified in preborn twins. Yeah, I was also going just really at a more basic level than that, or that it was simply that she's in a bad situation here. And we're going to find out that as much as there's a variety of plans and situations up in the air and on offer, one of them is very much that kill these two. Uh, she could easily get killed here. They're in a pretty bad position. Um, oh, what was it? It reminds me of something that the stainless steel rat said once. I think was it when he's paralyzed from the next down. He just considered it a minor inconvenience. So that kind of thing. It's the mentality here, and we get a different sort of mentality from Idaho, and I'm trying to get the grips with what Idaho's actually up to in this chapter, what he's really feeling. Again, there's what's hidden within here. But it was just at that point earlier that noting the anger, keep that for later, this kind of thing, and it's probably a Bene Gesserit attitude, but to me it was overall an optimistic one. I just spoke to the character. But yes, so I forgot about her own day. Well, yes, it's just in the face of danger. It's that'll be handy later. It's a I'll make use of that. Yeah, it's a very nonchalant, but it's also confidence extreme, isn't it? I'm getting out of here, or I'm going to act and plan as if I am getting out of here. Because if I'm not, there's no point in worrying about it. But it's I just wrote optimistic. It's a character trait, just really. And the only thing I was wondering is it a Bene Gesserit one in general? And I actually didn't think it was, because we get lots of dire warnings and stuff from the Bene Gesserit. Dune is an example there. Without the testing, he's doomed. All of that there's a bit pessimistic, I suppose. But so I kind of was going that I thought it was an individual character trait rather than just putting a wee bit of thought into it. I suppose could be wrong. Well, fortune passes everywhere. Stay lucky. The bad luck of Leto Atreides is my good luck, and he's not going to apologize for it. He's being honest in everything he says, and a truth sayer. And here's an interesting thing that I wondered the other night: is the power that a truth sayer would have is that if the Bene Gesserit really wanted something, if they wanted him out of the way, for example, he could do this and they could just go, oh no, he's lying. He's lying, he's not telling the truth. He did do it, kill him, execute him, and have him dragged away. I certainly, as much as truth is a weapon and an armor and shield in this universe, it could be subverted, I think, by the sisterhood very easily. To their advantage, if you see what I mean. It just got me thinking a wee bit about it. And this also, because again, the mystery, one of the things that I wasn't sure about, and I've talked about this a fair bit as I'm reading the book, was I couldn't figure out was Jessica back with the sisterhood or not? Was she working for them? Was she following her own agenda? It's a bit of both, but the answer is definitely in this chapter that yeah, she's been working for them. And then I suppose the problem is also what they're up to. The sisterhood's devices is the big thing I've written at the top of this page. Their plans, their machinations, and Gurney is in a position to meet Leto, and then everything that they want, whenever that happens, will be carried out. Leto will be tested. Without it, he's doing, and probably Gannon as well, but Leto seems to be the priority there. Jessica allowed herself a deep sigh. Sooner or later, she said, it'll occur to someone that you and my granddaughter could unite our two houses and heal old wounds. So a marriage to fix everything. This has already been mentioned to me as a possibility, Farad'n said. I've got glanning here, briefly at his mother, but I'm pretty sure it's glancing. I'm missing the letter C. I've got a bunch of missing letters in this chapter from words. That's the first one. My response was that I'd prefer to await the outcome of recent events on Arrakis. There's no need for a hasty decision. So sooner or later, someone's going to point out my granddaughter could unite our two houses and heal all wounds. Who's that? I wonder. That's a very hasty. Shall your Leto's dead? Let's have a wedding, if you like. I wonder who's pointed that out. We'll find out shortly. But his response is he preferred to wait to see what's going on here. And I've written that next. There's been a hasty proposal, and I've written next when Sissy's idea probably is what I've written next to it. So there's always the possibility that you've already played into my daughter's hands. Farad'n stiffened. Explain. Matters on Arrakis are not as they may seem to you, Jessica said. Alia plays her own game, Abomination's game. My granddaughter is in danger unless Alia can contrive a way to use her. You expect me to believe that you and your daughter oppose each other, that Atreides fight Atreides? And Jessica looked at Wansisia, back to Farad'n. Corrino fights Corrino. And I've written next to that, well, touche. I've written, oh, the dramatic irony here. I always laugh when this comes up. You expect me to believe that you and your daughter oppose each other, that Atreides fight Atreides? What else are they known for? The family that's into self-slaughter, that eats its, yeah. Why wouldn't you? Sorry, just with the understanding of Farad'n as a historian. And in this series of books, in Frank Herbert's Dune series, the Atreides in these books trace their family line to the Atreides in reality, Agamemnon and Menelaus. Well, therefore to Atreus and so on and so forth, all the way back to Tantalus, I think. So just the whole, you expect me to believe that you and your daughter oppose each other, that Atreides fight Atreides? I went, well, that's just me. Yeah, I just wrote, well, yeah, actually. Corrino fights Corrino. And again, touche. Oh, yes, if you guys are at each other's throats, why wouldn't we be? A wry smile moved Farad'n's lips. Well taken. How would I have played into your daughter's hands? And so again, part of this is very much, I've written next, this is a trap by Jessica here, a political trap. I like this, by becoming implicated in my grandson's death, by abducting me. And I've just written next to that, ouch, dangerous. Abduct, and I think that's Farad'n's uh-oh moment. And when Sissia kicks in immediately here, don't trust this witch. When Sissia cautioned, and the use of the word witch there, that pejorative, that's a nice little touch. Of course, Jessica and Idaho have come here of their own volition, haven't they? They've come here voluntarily seeking, but to suggest that, and of course they are captives at the minute, but to suggest that you abducted me, that is very dangerous for Farad'n if word gets out of that by becoming implicated. That this is exactly what she would do. This is how Alia will get you. I'll choose, this is Farad'n, I'll choose whom to trust, mother, Farad'n said. Forgive me, Lady Jessica, but I don't understand this matter of abduction. I understand that you and your faithful retainer, pardon me, who is Alia's husband, Jessica said. I've written just next, just before we go on here. Does he not get this? Pardon me. Does he not, and I think he does, abduct? Oh no, what are you talking about? This kind of thing. I don't understand this matter of abduction. You're a guest in my house, as the Shigamire clearly demonstrates. This kind of thing. I think he's playing stupid here. Jessica's raising all the right points to get, again, I think, to direct his thinking here. And he turned a measuring, Farad'n turned a measuring stare at Idaho, looked at the Bashar. What think you, Tyke? The Bashar apparently was having thoughts similar to those Jessica professed. He said, I like her reasoning. Caution. He's a Gola Mentat, Farad'n said. We could test him to the death and not find a certain answer. test him to the death, torture him, in other words. But it's a safe working assumption that we may have been tricked, Tychonic said. And I've written next this by who, and then I've written by Alia, I've written by Jessica, and I've written by the Bene Gesserit. Is what I think is who they're being tricked by. Everyone's at it though in this bit here, isn't it? Aren't they? And this is, I've written Jessica makes her move. Jessica knew the moment had come to make her move. Now, if Idaho's grief only kept him locked in the part he'd chosen, she disliked using him this way, but there were larger considerations. Now, I've got questions here. I think Farad'n's going to run with some of these questions later as well. But the question is, what part has he chosen here? And how is Jessica using him? And what is her control? But I've also written next is therefore that we can look at Idaho in this chapter as a tool that is being used by Jessica in the sense that we talk about human beings as tools. So we get the give and the take, if you like, which I think we talked about actually we did talk about it a long time ago, but it's a thing that's going to come up later, I think, in this book. Excuse me a wee second, folks. I'm going to get a wee sip of honey here. But yeah, what Idaho's grief has kept him locked in the part he'd chosen. What is that part? Is it a cuckold? Is it I don't know. His behavior is a bit bizarre in this chapter, and we're given hints at it. We'll have a look when we get there, I think. Let's see. I'll just got lots of comments, folks. I'll tell you what. Give me a wee second to catch up with them. There we go. Leto thing. The son of Leto. We were running with that, weren't we? Was he called Leto II before he took rule as emperor? Was Earl? Earl said. Earl Parkour says Jessica's optimism could be due to her knowing better than anyone else Alia's capabilities at such young ages, which would be magnified in preborn twins. Oh yeah, I forgot about her own day. Oh yes, sorry, catching up there. My text has glancing briefly at his mother, which I think should say as his mother, at his mother. So a typo in my text tonight. Let's have a wee look. Oh, but there's loads of them, isn't there? Back a wee bit there. Hang on, let's see. Let's see, where'd that bit, Jessica? Sorry, just to find that glancing briefly as his mother. Where's the last time she spoke? Bear with me a second, so I just got to try and figure out where that was. Glancing briefly at his. Right, where was that? Wait, bear with me. I'm going to find this here. Sorry, I'm just trying to figure out what that is. Bear with me a wee second. Don't trust this which one says it abduct. Oh, let's see. Oh dear, oh dear. Let's So, oh, bear with me, folks. I'm trying to find that wee bit in the passage here. This has already been mentioned to me as a possibility. Thank you, Cynthia. That'll be easier. Oh, but that was the wedding, wasn't it? Let's see. This is the paragraph starts. This has already been mentioned to me as a possibility. That was Farad'n speaking, wasn't it? Right. Let's find that. He's an orange. Got it. Right. There we go. Thank you. Glancing briefly at his mother. You've got glancing briefly as his mother. Yeah. 35. Got it. 37. Yeah, I've got glaning briefly. Thank you. There you go. Yeah, glance. I think it should be glance. You've got glancing briefly as his mother. There's mine there. Where are we? I'll focus in a wee second. Glaning briefly at his mother. There you go. Thank you, Cynthia. I need to check. I even actually once I do try to stick with one book. I occasionally grab another one, but most of the editions that I have, I've got 4 different ones. They have the same mistakes, But thank you very much. Sorry for the wee bit of dead air, folks, but I've got to check this stuff. Pardon me. You've got glancing. Yeah, it has to be glancing. I've just filled in the letter there. Glaning. Jessica and Gurney's behind the curtain plan is really what turns the wheels of the plot. Yes. The paragraph starts. This is already. We got there. That's it. Thank you very much. Yes, indeed. And the seeds of that, we're getting that dropped here as well. Yeah, there's very much a direction of the conversation, if you like, but the plans, who's been in touch with who. And it's a little bit confusing as we go through this, but I think some of it's revealed to us. It's a very Machiavellian. There's real intrigue in this chapter. Of course, Bashar, I like her reasoning. Be cautious. Caution. He's a Gulamentat. Yeah, we could test him to the death and not find a certain answer. But it's a safe working assumption that we may have been tricked, taken, etc. So again, we were saying, sorry, by who? And I went Alia, Jessica, the Bene Gesserit, and who's been tricked by who here? So just trying to catch up to where we were. What part had Idaho chosen to take on, and how is Jessica using him? So I suppose she's using his grief, if you like, his domestic situation. So here we go. This is the give from Jessica. To begin with, Jessica said, I might announce publicly that I came here of my own free choice. Interesting, Farad'n said. You'd have to trust me and grant me the complete freedom of Salusa Secundus, Jessica said. There could be no appearance that I spoke out of compulsion. That's the take. No, when Sissia protested. Farad'n ignored her. What reason would you give? That's harsh, isn't it? That I'm the sisterhood's plenipotentiary, sent here to take over your education. But the sisterhood accuses that would require a decisive action from you, Jessica said. Don't trust her. With extreme politeness, Farad'n glanced at her, said, if you interrupt me once more, I'll have Tyek remove you. He heard you consent to the formal investiture that binds him to me now. So Tyek is now Farad'n's man. Any loyalty to Wencesia is gone. She's a witch, I tell you. Wencesia looked to the mute against the side wall. Farad'n hesitated. Then, Tyek, what think you? Have I been witched? Not in my judgment. You've both been witched, she screams. Now, I've just written here that, and I've wondered why is it witched instead of bewitched? Have I been bewitched? You've been both bewitched would made more sense. Um, but they've used the word witch there again, maybe just to have it as sort of an anachronism or something. Um, but I thought, what is Wansisia doing here, rather ineffectually, is trying to provoke the mute guard to shoot Jessica in Idaho, is I think what she's at. Just backing up, folks, the Sisterhood's plenipotentiary. A plenipotentiary is from here. Well, what would it be? Is a person who you've given all your power to, pretty much. Comes from the Latin plenus, which means full, and potentia, which is power. So we get the word plenipotentiarius, if you like, full power. That's like I can almost imagine Servalan chucking that out on Blake 7, couldn't you? I've got a wee thing here. As a person or diplomat invested with full power of independent action on behalf of their government or agency while abroad, usually. So a plenipotentiary is someone who has the full power, full authority of an organization while, I suppose, in another state or another country, that kind of thing. Yeah, you've both been witched. Looking at the mute, that's strongly suggestive of shoot these two, isn't it? Mother. His tone was flat and final. When Sissia clenched her fists, tried to speak, whirled and fled the room. And we have exit Wansisia there. I quite like Wansisia. She's a bit, she's quite evil, isn't she? I definitely think that she's trying to, and she's been forced out really pretty much of power here. She's not considered, and I think it's down to the fact that she's not intelligent. I think if she was smart, I don't think Farad'n would be teaching her this way. Or sorry, pardon me, treating her this way. Pardon me. And it's a very impulsive thing, I think, to do here. We know why the mute has been stationed in the room, and she's shouting, "You've both been witched." And while looking at this guy, it seems he's got a bit of judgment, so he doesn't shoot them. But it also seems that Farad'n's being played a little bit here. So as much as I could announce that you kidnapped me, I could also announce that I'm here of my own free will as your guest. And and if you did that, you'd have to, in order for it to look real, you have to give me the full run of your planet. I can run about and do what I want. So when Sissy is very against this, no, don't trust her. She's a witch, I tell you. I thought was very I don't know. Was I thinking on the Wizard of Oz or something like that? It just and it's almost like a trope, isn't it? He's mad, I tell you, this kind of thing. You get in old movies. But yes, indeed, and a little bit of again, we can almost hold a mirror up, to House Corrino and House Atreides, compare them, and they're just as crazy, aren't they? So off went Sissia goes, addressing himself once more to Jessica. Farad'n asked, "Would the Bene Gesserit consent to this?" They would. Farad'n absorbed the implication of this, smiled tightly. What does the Sisterhood want in all of this? Now that's the good question, isn't it? I've just written down there, that is an astute question. What am I buying here? Your marriage to my granddaughter. Idaho shot a questioning look at Jessica, made as though to speak, but remained silent. You were going to say something, Duncan. Jessica said, "You were going to say something, Duncan." Here we go. This is Duncan's little bit here. "I was going to say that the Bene Gesserit want what they've always wanted, a universe that won't interfere with them." I kind of figured, isn't that what we all want? I thought. This is Farad'n. An obvious assumption, Farad'n said, but I hardly see why you intrude with it. Is it an obvious assumption, or is this again Farad'n playing a game here? Um, Idaho, I like this, but Idaho's eyebrows managed the shrug which the Shigawire would not permit his body. Disconcertingly, he smiled. Farad'n saw the smile, whirled to confront Idaho. I amuse you? This whole situation amuses me. Someone in your family has compromised the Spacing Guild by using them to carry instruments of assassination to Arrakis, instruments whose intent could not be concealed. You've offended the Bene Gesserit by killing a male they wanted for their breeding probe, and he's cut off. You call me a liar, Gola? No, I believe you didn't know about the plot, but I thought the situation needed bringing into focus. Jessica says, don't forget that he's a mentat, Jessica cautioned. My very thought, Farad'n said. Once more he faced Jessica. Let us say that I free you and you make your announcement. That still leaves the matter of your grandson's death. The mentat is correct. Now, just backing up a wee bit here. I'm not quite sure what this is about here. It's out of character for Farad'n, I think. The whole do I amuse you? This kind of thing. You call me a liar, Gola, is when being told very important information. I've just read it's kind of it's like a bit chest thumping, isn't it? It's a bit male adolescent um, behavior, and it didn't strike me as genuine. If you see what I mean. But especially he's listing, you've made a real mess with the Spacing Guild. Your intent can't be hidden. You've killed a male that the Bene Gesserit want for their breeding program. That sounds, what, I beg your pardon? Tell me more. That sounds like very important information, and that he cuts Idaho off at this could call me a liar goal at a very odd time. And again, the whole point is about I'm trying to bring you into focus. Is what are the Bene Gesserit up to? You're looking at the way old marriage of the granddaughter. That's what they're after. What do you want? Well, have a look at what they want. I'll tell you what they want. They want to be left alone. They don't want to be interfered with. But you have messed with them. And he just wants to point this out. And I don't believe that I believe you didn't know about the plot. So I'm not calling you a liar. But I thought the situation needed bringing under focus. So my very thought, and don't forget that he's a mentat, Jessica cautioned, my very thought, Farad'n said, once more he faced Jessica, let us say that I freed you and you make your announcement. That still leaves the matter of your grandson's death. The mentat is correct. Was it your mother? Jessica asked. My lord, Tychonic warned. It's all right, Tyke, Farad'n waved hand easily. And if I say it was my mother? Now, I suppose for me, the question, was it your mother? Tychonic's response there with the exclamation mark would have probably told me my answer, or told Jessica her answer straight away. The answer is yes. And it's all right. And if I say it was my mother, well, why on earth would you say such a thing? Unless, unless that was the case. Unless you just simply wanted to use your mother as a tool for political gain, which is pretty harsh. But it was her pretty much is what I got out of that. What if I say it was my mother? Risking everything in the test of this internal break among the Corrino, Jessica said, you must denounce her and banish her. My lord, Tychonic said, there could be trickery within trickery here. Idaho said, and the lady Jessica and I are the ones who've been tricked. Farad'n's jaw hardened. And Jessica thought, don't interfere, Duncan. Not now. But Idaho's words had sent her own Bene Gesserit abilities and logic into motion. He shocked her. What's so shocking? She began to wonder if there was the possibility that she was being used in ways she didn't understand. And there was that other question. Had her own sisterhood been completely candid with her? They still might not trust her. After all, she'd betrayed them once to her duke. Oh, that's the wrong. I want to that's a whiteboard marker. Bear with me a second. I just want to highlight something here. But her two questions really: is there a possibility that I'm being used in a way that I don't understand? That's number one. And the other one is, have they been completely candid with me? Have they told me the truth? Am I being used? Have I been told the truth? Interesting. We could run that with that question with a bunch of characters at the minute, couldn't we? They still might not trust her. So they've had a breeding program for thousands of years, and she's chucked an almighty spanner in the works, gremlin in the machines, all of these kind of things. At the penultimate moment, if I was the Bene Gesserit, I wouldn't trust her at all. And after all, she'd betrayed them once, false in something, false always, and all things, isn't it? That kind of thing. She's most likely going to do it, might do it again. And she did it for love, which is a noble kind of idea, if you like. Yeah, this is a chapter that I don't think the Bene Gesserit come out of looking well. Farad'n looked at Idaho with a puzzled frown. Mentat, I need to know what this preacher is to you. He arranged the passage here. We did not exchange 10 words. Others acted for him. He could be Paul Atreides, but I don't have enough data for certainty. All I know for certain is that it was time for me to leave, and he had the means. You speak of being tricked, Farad'n reminded him. Alia expects you to kill us quietly and conceal the evidence of it, Idaho said. Having rid her of the Lady Jessica, I'm no longer useful. And the Lady Jessica, having served her sisterhood's purposes, is no longer useful to them. Alia will be calling the Bene Gesserit to account, but they will win. That's interesting. Aha. Something's in the powder. Oh, here we got that one. Have you skipped a couple of... Oh, hang on. Probably, Cynthia. Jessica also wonders about Ganima and Leto and their plans. Oops, plans. Where's that at? Sorry. Something I didn't think I saw that. Could you just let me know where that the paragraphs? This has already been mentioned to me as a possibility. Or was that the previous thing that I was trying to find? Hang on, before we go. Paragraph. This has already been mentioned to me as a possibility. Was that the paragraph starts with, and Jessica thought, "Don't interfere." Thank you very much. Let's have a wee nosy. Shouldn't be too hard to find. Oh, big exclamation marks. Right, there it is. That's number 72. Bear with me, please. Have I been sleepy? And Jessica thought, "Don't interfere." Right. Those words sent her own Bene Gesserit abilities, logic into motion. He shocked her. She began to wonder if there was the possibility, that she was being used in ways she didn't understand. Yeah, I've got it. That's me. Ganima and Leto. The preborn could draw upon countless inner... Oh, crap. Yeah, I've missed out a whole section. That's my fault for being sleepy. Let me just make a wee note. Thank you very much. Yeah, that's a howler, isn't it? Right, where are we? I'm going to have to figure out how to scribble that in. Let's use you for this. Right, I'll rewrite the paragraph at the end of the chapter. That's what we'll have to do. Let's see. Oh, no, shouldn't be writing with that thing. Right. Thank you, Cynthia. Yeah, sorry folks, the last few weeks I have not, well, it's actually been a wee bit longer than that, but I've not been sleeping very well with my bizarre sleep disorder, and it is starting to affect my work a wee bit. But you guys are catching it for me, so thank you so much. But I must apologize. It's just a funny thing. I keep trying to keep on. I should know that I should stop my work when I get this tired, but it's partly trying to get it done on time. For this, right? That's paragraph number, where are we? 72 for me. Rewrite that. I'll fit that in because I've left out from Ganima. There we go. Thank you so much. What did I leave out from Ganima? She didn't understand. Yeah. So I've left out there Ganima and Leto, the preborn could draw upon countless inner experiences, a storehouse of advice far more extensive than the living Bene Gesserit depended on. Depended upon. And then, yeah, I've got the rest of it there. So sorry, folks. That's a wee bit back. I missed out. That looks like a whole couple of sentences there. One decent, long sentence. Pardon me. Right. I'll fix that in my notes at the whenever we're done, folks. Thank you very much. Oh dear, it is important. No problem, Doc. I just thought it was important. Jessica wonders what the twins' plans are. Something too few people do until the end of the story. Thank you. Yeah, no, it's really important. It is indeed. I said that's just thank you. It's yeah, I hate making mistakes like this. I made a bunch in the last few weeks. I think just accident. I'm either accidentally leaving a word or a sentence out. Or just it's pretty much stuff like that, or I'm rewriting sentences 2 or 3 times because I'm just so sleepy. But yeah, the weird thing is I can't really sleep, so I just try to keep working on it. But look at this. This is the absolute mess I was making. All right, up here, doing this kind of stuff and all. That's the point where I went to sleep. But thank you very much. Yes, indeed, and I'll fix that. So it's paragraph 72. Yeah, that needs to be rewritten. And then that'll be chapter 31 next. Thank you very much. No, it's plenty of room to fix these wee things. If it's just it's the way I've squeezed it, and then I wouldn't be able to fit it into the paragraph, so I'll just rewrite it. Who's being tricky? Yeah, the Bene Gesserit will win. That's where we got to, wasn't it? Yeah. And you speak of being tricked, and pretty much, I've brought Jessica. I've done what Alia wants, is what Idaho is suggesting. I've gotten rid of the Lady Jessica for her, brought her here, and therefore she wants rid of me. I'm of no use to her. I should be killed. As for Lady Jessica, she served the sisterhood's purpose. Again, no longer useful. They could do without her. Again, no longer useful to them. And the suggestion is they might have her killed, which kind of brings them down a bit, doesn't it? I think. Jessica closed her eyes in concentration. There we go. Right. He was right. She could hear the mentat firmness in his voice, that deep sincerity of pronouncements. Of pronouncement. The pattern fell into place without a chink. She took 2 deep breaths and triggered the mnemonic trance, rolled the data through her mind, came out of the trance and opened her eyes. It was done while Farad'n moved in front of her to a position within half a step of Idaho, a space of no more than 3 steps. Say no more, Duncan, Jessica said, and she thought mournfully of how Leto had warned her against Bene Gesserit conditioning. Idaho, about to speak, closed his mouth. I command here, Farad'n said. Continue, mentat. Idaho remained silent. So no, in other words, you don't. Farad'n half turned to study Jessica. She stared at a point on the far wall, reviewing what Idaho and the trance had built. The Bene Gesserit hadn't abandoned the Atreides line, of course, but they wanted control of a Kwisatz Haderach, and they'd invested too much in the long breeding program. They wanted the open clash between Atreides and Corrino, a situation where they could step in as arbiters. And Duncan was right. They'd emerge with both control of Ganima and Farad'n. It was the only compromise possible. The wonder was that Alia hadn't seen it. Jessica swallowed past a tightness in her throat. Alia, abomination. Ganima was right to pity her, but who was left to pity Ganima? And as Cynthia was saying there, we'd pointed out, because I missed that little comment, but it's exactly what Cynthia was saying there. It's important to point what are the twins up to. Sometimes two people wonder what they're doing until the end of the story. And we've got everybody. I'm fully in the background, really in control. I think is the twins' plan. But we've got so many people plotting here, so many plans unrolling. It's a crazy chapter for it, isn't it? And to pity Ganima, who's left to pity Ganima? I think Ganima is okay. Ganima. I don't think Ganima deserves pity at this point. Ganima is being pretty badass, and it's kind of how would you put it? Walked into hell for a heavenly cause. This kind of thing. It's the thing to be admired. I wouldn't, as much as it's not going to be easy for her. I wouldn't pity her. Though I do pity Alia in this situation. The Sisterhood has promised to put you on the throne with Ganima as your mate, Jessica said. And maybe Farad'n's thoughts. Hang on. Farad'n took a backward step. Did the witch read minds? There's the word witch again. They worked secretly and not through your mother, Jessica said. They told you I was not privy to their plans, or to their plan. This is the Sisterhood she's talking about here. Jessica read revelation in Farad'n's face, how open he was. But it was true. The whole structure. Idaho had demonstrated masterful abilities as a mentat, seeing through to the fabric on the limited data available to him. So they played a double game and told you, Farad'n said. They told me nothing of this, Jessica said. Duncan was correct. They tricked me. She nodded to herself. It had been a classic delaying action in the Sisterhood's traditional pattern. A reasonable story, easily accepted because it squared with what one might believe of their motives, but they wanted Jessica out of the way, a flawed sister who'd failed them once. That's quite sinister sounding, isn't it? And Duncan is right. They've used me. They've used me to get close to my grandchildren. And they've used my daughter and my grandchildren basically to help them make another move towards the throne with their breeding programs. It seems they've also been using Farad'n here as well. Everyone's getting used. Yeah. Tychonic moved to Farad'n's side. My lord, these two are too dangerous to wait a bit, Tyke, Farad'n said. There are wheels within wheels here. He faced Jessica. We had reasons to believe that Alia might offer herself as my bride. All right, this is where things get a bit interesting, I suppose. Idaho gave an involuntary start, controlled himself. Blood began dripping from his left wrist where the Shigawire had cut. Jessica allowed herself a small, eye-widening response. She who'd known the original Leto as lover, father of her children, confidant and friend, saw his trait of cold reasoning filter now through the twistings of abomination. Hmm. Saw his trait of cold reasoning filter now through the twistings of abomination. That's interesting. It's an aspect of Leto's character that's been drawn out, I suppose, because of Alia. Cold reasoning. Will you accept? Idaho asked. Are you going, or is he going to marry my wife? This is marriage to Alia he's talking about. It's being considered. Now, if we understand that, then if Farad'n is to marry Alia, that means we require Duncan to be either dead or divorced. Simple as that. Now, Duncan, I told you to be silent, Jessica said. She addressed Farad'n. Her price was 2 inconsequential deaths. The 2 of us. We suspected treachery, Farad'n said. Wasn't it your son who said treachery breeds treachery? The sisterhood is out to control both Atreides and Corrino, Jessica said. Isn't that obvious? I suppose we're kind of going in the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. We're toying with the idea of accepting your offer, Lady Jessica, but Duncan Idaho should be sent back to his loving wife. Now, here we get, this is a bit weird now. Idaho's thoughts. So just prior to this, where are we? Reasons to believe Alia might offer herself as my bride. So it's a wedding proposal that hasn't come yet. Would you accept? It's being considered. We suspect treachery. Blah blah blah. We're toying with the idea of accepting your offer, Lady Jessica, but Duncan Idaho should be sent back to his loving wife. So this is what happens next. Pain. This is Duncan's thoughts here. Pain is a function of nerves. Idaho reminded himself. Pain comes as light comes to the eyes. Effort comes from the muscles, not the nerves. It was an old mentat drill, and he completed it in the space of one breath, flexed his right wrist, and severed an artery against the sugar wire. So essentially, we're going to have this running with this later on. I've read a couple of chapters on after this, actually, because I'm starting to get intrigued, but I haven't got too far ahead. Yeah, later on, I think we're going to get Farad'n's going to investigate this so-called suicide attempt, if you like. Taconic leaped to the chair, hit its trip lock to release the bindings, shouted for medical aid. It was revealing that assistants came swarming at once through the door, hidden in wall panels. The reason why I read that funny there is I'll reread it again with what I've got, and then I'll fix it. What I've got in my text, I've got letters missing from 2 words. So Taconic leaped to the chair, hit its trip lock to release the bindings, shouted for medical aid. It was revealing that assistants swarming at once through doors, hiding in wall panels. So I've got a D missing in hidden and the E missing in came. But that's pretty much what that is. It was revealing that assistants came swarming at once through doors, hidden in wall panels. So just a bunch of mistakes there in my copy. Pardon me, missing letters and 2 words there. Jessica's thoughts. There was always a bit of foolishness in Duncan. Jessica thought it's been a bit of a fool here. It also made me think that isn't Shigawire a ridiculously stupid set of restraints to keep someone in, but any prisoner who does not want to give up information or is suicidal, all they've got to do is go wee and just move and they're dead. It's an interesting thing. Saying that, if you had a prisoner who did value their life, then it seems to be a pretty good way of keeping them from moving. But a little bit too lethal, I think. There always was a bit of foolishness in Duncan, Jessica thought. Farad'n studied Jessica a moment while the medics ministered to Idaho. I didn't say I was going to accept his Alia. It's almost like I didn't say I'd marry your wife. There's no need to kill yourself. This kind of thing. Jessica's response here is interesting. That's not why he cut his wrist, Jessica said. Okay, so it hasn't anything to do with him possibly accepting this wedding proposal. Not that it's happened yet. Oh, Farad'n, this is Farad'n. Oh, I thought he was simply removing himself. You're not that stupid, Jessica said. Stop pretending with me. He smiled. I'm well aware that Alia would destroy me. Not even the Bene Gesserit would expect me to accept her. Very quickly before we move on, that's not why he cut his wrist. The question is, why did he do it? We fall back earlier to in the chapter that Duncan seems to have taken on a particular role here. I'm not too sure what it is specifically, but why has he done this? Now, it's just to point out something. That's not why he cut his wrist, Jessica said. Farad'n's response is, oh, I thought he was simply removing himself. That harkens back to Pardo Kynes. It's just the language of it. And Uliet, whom Liet Kynes is named after. Uliet is the Fremen that's sent to kill Pardo, and he tells him while he's teaching to remove himself. And that guy falls upon his knife. Farad'n's bookish, and I've kind of got a couple of questions about his information in this chapter. I wonder. There's a question about his sources, I think. And I'm not too sure who his sources are, but I think one of them is possibly Irulan. I'll maybe discuss why in a wee bit if we get there. So he said, "Oh, I thought he was simply removing himself. So I thought he was just trying to kill himself because it would free me up. It would free his wife open to marry me. How nice of him. You're not that stupid," Jessica said. "Stop pretending with me." I'm well aware that Alia would destroy me. Not even the Bene Gesserit would expect me to accept her. Okay, I'm not that stupid. He's just admitted. Jessica bent a weighted stare upon Farad'n. What was this young scion of her house Corrino? Pardon me, he didn't play the fool well. However, just on the previous bit there, always a bit of foolishness about Duncan. Duncan seems to play the fool well. What about Farad'n? Not so much. She's not buying it. Again, she recalled Leto's words that she'd encountered an interesting student. I thought there was something wrong with that as well. There we are. Again, she recalled Leto's words that she'd encountered an interesting student. The tense is all wrong there. Surely it's that she'd encounter. I'm wondering if anybody can check that one. Again, I might be wrong. Because she hadn't encountered him at that point, had she? And the preacher wanted this as well, Idaho said. She wished she'd met this preacher. Back to the business of Wencesia, who they've pretty much given away. Will you banish Wencesia? Jessica asked. It seems a reasonable bargain, Farad'n said. Jessica glanced over at Idaho. The medics had finished with him. Less dangerous restraints held him in the floater chair. Jessica says this. Mentats should be aware of absolutes, and I have written next to that, us too. This is kind of funny, folks. Just from my own point of view, I've gone a bit meta here. It says, Idaho says, I'm tired. Idaho said, you've no idea how tired I am. And I've written next to this, I do. I know how he feels. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Interestingly, here is Farad'n's response. happens when it's overexploited. Even loyalty wears out finally, Farad'n said. And Jessica shot that measuring stare at him. There's more to this Farad'n than meets the eye. Loyalty overexploited. There's something of Idaho's behavior that we were told about a long way back in Dune Messiah about the Bene Gesserit Kwisatz Haderach that committed suicide because it what was it? It couldn't bear to live with being the antithesis of its own self, if you see what I mean. I think we've got something like that going on here. That Duncan's cut his wrists here because I suppose it's the paradox of his loyalty to House Atreides, isn't it? How can he be loyal to his wife and be loyal to Jessica, loyal to Ganima and Leto, and the loyalties are taking him in different directions. And I suppose he's probably feeling the psychological problems of having to betray, or not that it's her that's betrayed him, the loss of love of Alia, etc., this kind of thing, who's always been almost a sort of well, how would they put it? Runners-up prize for Duncan Idaho. It's really been Jessica. He's had his eye on, I think, the whole time. Pardon me. And of course the twins and their new plan and everything. But the family that he's loyal to have gone bonkers. Basically, they're all out to get each other, and I think that's what's happening with Duncan here. It's kind of the same thing as what happens to Hal in the 2001 the Odyssey series. Not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read it or seen. Well, you need to have seen 2010 to understand why Hal does what Hal does, but it's of a similar reason to this. So they said, my text has, again, she recalled Leto's words that she'd encounter an interesting student. Thank you. Yeah, I thought encountered, isn't it? It's the wrong tense. It's the EDs, superfluous. Yeah, there it is. Thank you. 100. Yeah, yeah. And you have encounter. Yeah, so the ED. Thank you very much. Where are we? Just fix that in the book. Grab a highlighter. Lots of little funny typos in this chapter in my book. Thank you, Cynthia, as always. Well, we're nearly done, aren't we? Right, let's push on, folks. I know it's getting late. Farad'n seeing this thought, in time she'll know me for certain, and that could be valuable. A renegade Bene Gesserit of my own. It's the one thing her son had that I don't have. Let her get only a glimpse of me now. She can see the rest later. So he is kind of hiding his personality, if you like. Pardon me. Oh. Yeah, there's a wee mistake I've made. Let's just change that. Okay, so a fair exchange, Farad'n said. I accept your offer on your terms. He signaled the mute against the wall with a complex flickering of fingers. The mute nodded. Farad'n bent to the chair's control, released Jessica. All right. Oh, hang on. Sorry, just wanted to check something there. 6. Oh. Yeah. Oh, it's okay. All right. Where did you go? There it is. Sorry, missing an apostrophe. That's all. Farad'n bent to the chair's control, released Jessica. Tychonik asked, "My lord, are you sure? Isn't it what we discussed?" Farad'n asked. "Yes, but," Farad'n chuckled, addressed Jessica. "Tyke suspects my sources. But one learns from books and reels only that certain things can be done. Actual learning requires that you do these things." I've written that's not true. Um, Jessica, like, you get the idea. It's kind of practical over theory, if you kind of that kind of thing. Jessica mused on this as she lifted herself from the chair. Her mind returned to Farad'n's hand signals. He had an Atreides-style battle language. Pardon me. It spoke of careful analysis. Someone here was consciously copying the Atreides. Mimesis. "Of course," Jessica said, "you'll want me to teach you as the Bene Gesserit are taught." Farad'n beamed at her. "The one offer I cannot resist," he said. And he's got what he wants. So the trade-off, the deal is done, as I've written up here. Really important for that is mimesis. They are imitating. They're learning about House Atreides by imitating. Farad'n's trying to imitate Paul in every sense of the way. His mother was trying to imitate Jessica. I dare say they imagine that the court of House Corrino is trying to imitate the court of House, or Arrakis, the Atreides on Arrakis, etc. This kind of thing. It's a very interesting chapter. There's all sorts going on. We get the sense that Alia is betraying everybody, that she sent Jessica and Idaho here to be murdered, that the Bene Gesserit have been manipulating Jessica. They've been manipulating Farad'n here. They've been at it with everybody. And this also that they're probably, in terms of what Jessica thinks is going on here, there's a chance that her own sisterhood could have hung her out to dry here and had her murdered, which isn't very nice. There's elements of this chapter that are imitating things from Dune. The warning again that Jessica and Idaho are they're too dangerous. That's the Baron's old warning, isn't it? These two are far too dangerous to keep as prisoners to deal with badly. However, she's ended up in position to, as a tutor, basically, to Farad'n, which is what he wants. He can learn all the Bene Gesserit stuff and the weirding way stuff that Paul learned, so he can be just like him. So it's very interesting that the house and individuals within it are kind of engaged in an active form of mimesis, if you like, of an imitation. The bit where I was kind of wondering about his information and so on, Tyke suspects my sources. What are they? I've written next to that Irulan ? And all of that's falling back to what's this thing with this mute geezer? And is that something that he's been badly, that he's been given deliberately false information there on the Sisterhood's abilities? I don't know. At the same time, I kind of figured out, I still figure that a lot of people would know about voice, even within language, by the way, within this chapter. I've just at the very start with our epigraph on the use of words. And if you look at the history and development of language and how words are used, to me, the most benevolent piece of technology that mankind has invented is the written word, and the most destructive piece of technology that we've ever invented is the written word. And you need to consider what's possible with those kind of things. From thou shalt not kill all the way up to E = MC squared. This kind of thing, and it's often, words end up, the control of language, the control of writing and the ability to read and write is something that perpetuated even into, probably it's still in some cultures today, but well into the 20th century. And particularly with religion, certain languages using, we use dead languages in religion. That the Catholic Church speaks ecclesiastical Latin, doesn't it? As if it's general population does. Yet most Catholics kind of know how to repeat by rote, by mimesis. certain Latin phrases, though I'd say a lot of them don't speak Latin because it's a dead language. But there we go. Um, that's a very interesting chapter. I've got some questions about it, particularly with Idaho's behaviour. Just in relation to words, by the way, I've written, in terms of languages and words, with the spoken word, with the written word, sign word, with non-verbal languages, body language, all sorts of ways of communicating. But secret languages indicate something's not good. I'll do something silly there. But there we are, folks. I'm well on the way to finishing off a second notebook. What have I written here? I've started doing some things, 10 things you might not know about June. I'll let you know this, folks. I was very quickly before we wrap up. I'm about to head off for there too. Hope we should be back next week at the same time. There's like a couple of short chapters. What was I going to say there? Just before I wrapped up, what was I thinking? Oh, why? It was just that I'd said I would try and do a commentary for the Denis Villeneuve films. So I started off giving it a go, and my opinion of the films has gotten even worse. Now I've just watched the two of them back to back, trying to give a commentary on them, and it's not going to be possible for me to do it that way. I've got to admit that at this point, having watched them a few times, they bored me shitless. I'm very sad to say. So I made a go at this. I'm going to have a go at it, but what I'm going to have to do is actually watch it in scenes, I think, and then piece it all together. But trying to do that, I had headphones and trying to record into the microphone. It started well, and by the time I got about 50 minutes, and I was ready to start drooling, because my brain was going. The really weird thing was, as I was sitting making some notes and stuff this week and being a bit tired, I ended up sticking on the miniseries of Dune and watched through it. And actually, it made me think of all the reasons why it was entertaining and Denis Villeneuve's wasn't, and why it's still entertaining. The point where I ended up watching it all and really enjoyed it, and then moved on to the Children of Dune miniseries, which I've started watching today. So there we go. But as much as I thought it'd be something I could record over a couple of hours and throw up there for your consideration, to do it any kind of justice, oh God, though, I'll have to do it in pieces because, God, I was being so, and I didn't want to be super critical, but I really, really was. I was going there. Just the things I kept saying, and it was just they were genuine things, but it was far too many negatives. So I'll have to consider that and see about how to do it again. But as I said, it opened up. I got a remastered copy of the Dune miniseries. It didn't have any subtitles, sadly, and I watched it. I was thoroughly entertained. And it's all the stuff that they've cut out of the movie is actually it's the fascinating stuff. It's interesting. It's not just, here's a bit of I can't be bothered with the dialogue. It must be boring. It's actually all the really interesting stuff and the intrigue and all, And I didn't care if the special effects were done in 2000 or anything. I had a good heart about it. I enjoyed it, Julian said Dune often seems to be about the absorption of groups, Fremen and Atreides, and now the Corrinos. Many other groups integrate later. Yeah, quite right. It is a different thing, how they evolve and blend together and stuff. I was having a wee bit of an natter about, I think the other week, Julian, about Ireland being a similar situation. Genetically speaking, we've had that many invaders over the years, and they have been, oddly enough, absorbed into our culture in Ireland. So the Irish are, as much as we have the old Irish and all that stuff, but we have a combination of, genetically speaking, we've got the Normans, we've got the Vikings, this kind of stuff, and a few other groups, and they all kind of invaded here and then just stayed and became Irish. But it was a healthy thing for our being an insular island, I suppose. It's a good thing for our DNA, But yes, indeed, and I think as you look through history, it's kind of one of those things that various groups, tribes, city-states, nations, all of this kind of thing eventually get absorbed, or they blend into each other, or simply get wiped out, But yes, indeed, and it's almost, again, the Bene Gesserit seem at this point in the story almost bigger than the houses, if you like, than the part, than almost bigger than the Atreides and the Corrinos, because it seems that it's possibly that the reach is so much bigger. Is what I got. I got a real sense of the Bene Gesserit are a bit, you, a little bit more to them than we think at this point in the book. As much as we've seen them do stuff, it really just shows you what level of manipulation they're at, and that they're determined to hold on to their bloodlines. And they just don't want anyone to interfere with them. If we believe Duncan, Idaho, there, just leave us alone and let us get on with our business. Not that that's ever going to work well for anybody in the universe. But there we go. Well, listen, folks, it's 1:30. I've had next to no sleep for days. I'm one of these people that can function reasonably well, but my eyes are starting to go quite black, I think, underneath. But apologies for this couple of wee silly mistakes. I do try to stop myself. I'll put the work down, but I'm a wee bit slow at realizing that I'm kind of like that. And thank you very much. There's a howler there where I left out a couple of sentences, so we'll get it tidied up in the notes. And yes, indeed, and even we're finding mistakes in other people's books occasionally where there isn't one in mine. But that's us past the halfway mark, folks. And I'm pretty sure our next chapters 31 and 32 are to be fast little chapters. Let me just check here for you. Let's see what work is ahead. Yeah, that's a quick one. I got 1, 2. So you call it 4 pages in total, 32. 1, 2, 3 and a half. Call it about 5, 4, 5. Yeah, less than 10 for the two of them. So there's a good chance that I'm heading off for a wee quick holiday, etc. This week, but there's a good chance we'll try and run with those 2 chapters together, unless it does something like throw me a big mad research thing. But hopefully that'll be okay for next Tuesday at 10 o'clock, folks. Apologies for the lateness tonight, just not too well. And I thought I wasn't horrifically ill. I just thought I need a minute, and I hope Pop set it up for 11 o'clock. So I hope you don't mind. So thanks, Doc. Many complexities in this chapter. We'll keep mulling them over. Yeah, it's that's the thing. As much as we can go through some chapters and be quite happy with what we're told in it, I've got questions with this one. There's all sorts of things going on here. Some revelations, and I think, as I had said previously, I pretty much I've been inquiring where's Jessica's interests lie all the way through the book, and I think I've been tricked as well, just like she is. Because I think the last time we looked at it, I thought that actually she's not really. She sort of is, but she's really here to see her grandchildren. I think it's an equal amount that she's working for the Bene Gesserit here, and that they've betrayed her. They've as well as much as she betrayed them. So lots of inversions of things, reminders of things that we've heard in Dune Messiah before. Tychonic reminding us that these are dangerous toys to keep. This kind of thing echoes the Baron and Peter, in relation to talking about Paul and Jessica. There's all sorts of little things within this chapter, and it's a tough one in terms of figuring out the political complexities, because we're getting some things revealed, and we have characters being very deceptive here. With Paul and with Duncan and Jessica being tricked, I'm genuinely quite happy to say it. I think I got tricked by Frank too, in a certain direction with one of the characters here, and well done for doing it. Because it's not good to work out everything, in a story. That's one of the reasons why I'm kind of only trying to go one chapter at a time. Though, as I said, I've jumped ahead a few chapters just out of interest, and at this point, I'll probably go on with the rest of the book as we move on. But that's us halfway through, folks. We're past the halfway mark. Lots to come, and I'd say as something said, it's going to get it's going to get even more complicated. No, it's the next chapter, isn't it, that we're going to, hang on. Or is it? No, it's the following chapter. In chapter 32, we're kind of going to get that, why did Idaho try to kill himself, this kind of thing. But we hit the sand running with Leto next time. And yes, maybe we'll have to investigate the Leto 1, 2, 3 thing, But listen, thank you everyone so much for your help, as always. helping me with these wee mistakes and stuff like that. I really do appreciate it, especially when I'm not running at 100% when I'm really tired like this. But I'm kind of used to it, if you like. But I'm well aware that I'll start making mistakes, so I'll try not to. But thank you very much. That's a good help for me. That if I do miss something like that, that you guys pick up on. So much appreciated. So Julian's saying, cheers everyone. Bojack Harkness, take care all. Yes, indeed, folks. Look after yourselves. Be safe. Live long and prosper. All of that kind of stuff. I'll see you next week at 10 o'clock GMT for hopefully chapters 31, fingers crossed, and 32 of Children of Dune. In the meantime, be groovy, and we'll see you all real soon. Take care, folks, and good night. Bye-bye. And thank you. Where are we? Oh, funny mouse. There we go. Ba-dum, ba-dum, bum, bum, ba-ba-bum, bum.